What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. Give you a quick overview, some of the data points, what really moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid did go up 4.53%, continuing its good momentum. $2.38 the low, $2.60 the high. You also see a lot of volume, so 95.26 million shares being traded, 83.4 is the average. And so you didn't really see that level of buying coming from the secondary market above $100,000. So the majority of the volume is actually coming from algorithmic trading. And for those of you that kind of watch my videos every day, I've been really trying to point out one very key point on the technicals is this super trend. So this kind of line right here. So ultimately, if it was going to get above that $2.47, that is where everything will change for Lucid, because you'd have algorithmic trading buying Lucid and trying to propel it higher. So essentially, even though you didn't see that strong level of buying coming from big money, you're seeing algorithmic trading pushing it higher. So a lot of this barcoding right here is that algorithmic trading moving Lucid higher. So Lucid's technicals are looking very, very good. And so most likely that is going to continue. So near the end of the video, I'll go over some kind of specifics and stuff like that. But one thing as well that was really driving Lucid higher was the recent Bloomberg interview with Peter. So I posted that on this channel earlier this morning. And he once again gave a lot of Easter eggs similar to Gagnon. And yeah, it really does look like there's going to be some sort of partnership, probably not announced this quarter. If anything, I'd say probably the end of Q1 in my opinion. Especially it sounds as though it's more oriented towards European expansion. And plus there might be some other partnerships as well, where Lucid provides the licensing and stuff like that to a big OEM in exchange for maybe like economies of scale. I think that's exactly the wording that Peter did use. But regardless, this is pretty much very good marketing. And so even generally speaking, I think there was a video that was on social media just of like some of the kick-ass marketing that Lucid's been doing. So new commercials, just even at the New York Square, like there's just a lot that Lucid is doing, and this just might be the tip of the iceberg. So I don't know if they've hired someone. Peter did state that they hired a expansion, I think someone for Europe, a new VP, but I don't think he mentioned anything about a new VP of marketing. So Lucid's website still hasn't been updated for that. So hopefully they've hired someone new. Clearly it looks like something's happening, but yeah, I think Lucid is definitely on the verge of continuing this trend. And on a side note, Tesla did go down 1.57%. So it's always a good day when Lucid outperforms Tesla. So something to keep in mind. But as well, shorts did return 596,000 shares. 22.37% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 266.5 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 1.13, and then utilization is 83.03. So I do cover quite a few different stocks, different YouTube channels. I have quite a lot of them, probably too much, but this, like, I cover a lot of stocks that are heavily shorted, and including Lucid, and Lucid is one of the only ones that actually shorts returned today. So shorts were really getting more bold in the broader market. So this is very abnormal. Shows that the tide is turning with Lucid. So like I said, I think I'm very cautiously optimistic about Lucid. There's a lot of key resistance levels that Lucid does need to get above, but it's looking like it's gaining more and more momentum. But looking at this, 1.65 million in calls, 521,000 in puts, 48% of all the options being done today were optimistic in nature, and you are seeing more of a resurge of big money getting in. So these transactions, 155,000 between 150 and 155, you have 99,000 between 145 and 150, and yeah, continued. So a lot of big money is getting in. Clearly that's not retail, and a lot of that is very bullish. So today there was 2.1 million in total premiums, 1.2 yesterday, and then 2.7. So yeah, definitely goes to show that there's a lot more interest. And on a side note, for those of you that are optimistic on Lucid, volatility is still relatively cheap. So if you are bullish on Lucid, you could definitely buy calls. And you can kind of get them for a fairly cheap price. But based on this, you're still seeing a lot of optimism. So still $3 is anticipated in the foreseeable future, but it is getting more and more optimistic almost every single day. So you're starting to see that $3.50 and also $4 expected. And oddly enough, for February and March, so most likely that's going to be encumbering their Q4 earnings once they do announce that, probably in February. This is where you see $5 anticipated. So a lot of optimism, and that's basically something I've been very consistent on bringing up, is that there is more and more optimism. Bears, though, are anticipating for it to be sub 250, and even for January for it to be sub $3, which in my opinion shows that they anticipate the stock price to go higher. So that's just how I see things. So generally speaking, pretty good stuff. And basically with it closing at $2.54, it is trading between this R3 and this R2. So in comparison to a lot of other growth stocks, Lucid is doing fairly good. $2.65 will be a key point to watch for tomorrow and for I guess going forward. Then 247 and then 236 is going to be the following support levels. It did bounce off of this general R1 today, so we do know going forward that is the next strong support. And then just generally on the actual chart itself, it is above the ALMA, did break above that 50-day moving average. And so for those of you, like I've stated in the past, been watching Lucid, that 50-day moving average is absolutely detrimental for Lucid, their success, and for it to move higher. And if it is able to stay above that 50-day moving average for 2 consecutive trading days, which would signal a trend, this is where in theory you do see, I think, like historically, roughly about like a 30 to 40% push higher. So there is, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic because I know Lucid has done this in the past, but given Gravity unveiling, recent many Easter eggs hinting of partnerships, both from Gagnon and also Peter. And also on a side note, that that interview with Peter was done very well. Hardly any stuttering. I think just one instance of that. So he was being very genuine and very confident. And I think that's a nice side of Peter that people and investors like to see. So technicals are looking good and everything else. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Give yourself a shout out if you've been buying, if you've been selling, and what you have been doing with Lucid. And yeah, so yeah, I think higher highs are anticipated. So just watch for some of those key points to watch for. And then aside from that, just right here, that 100 and 200-day moving average, and that is roughly around that $2.90 and $3 range, so the high twos. So a pretty big gap if it is able to get above this point right over here of 265. So it'll be a very nice push higher. Let me know your thoughts. And then one final thing I just wanted to share with you. I did launch a Patreon roughly around 3 weeks ago where I've been giving buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolute bangers, including even just this one. This was the most recent one just to hit my targets, and that was done after hours. So this was posted November the 30th about Broadcom, where I did say it'd be roughly 190 or higher, and lo and behold, after hours it's at 204 right now. So a lot of my picks so far, buy signals, have already 2 of them I believe have done 2x just in this 3 weeks. So definitely pop over to my Patreon, link in the description below and also the comments, and take a look for yourself. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.